All right, so today we're going to be looking into something pretty interesting.
Okay.
Thalapathy Vijay, big movie star.
Yes, very big.
Huge in the Tamil film industry, master, Bijal Mershal, some of his big hits, but get this. He's launching a political career.
Yeah, and not just dabbling a little bit.
Oh, no.
No, he's going right for the top, wants to be the chief minister of Tamil Nadu in 2026, and to do that, he's launched his own political party, the Tamilaga Vetri Kazhagam.
Which I believe means...
the Tamil Nadu Victory Federation.
So right there in the name.
Big ambitions.
Big ambitions.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
And of course, this reminds everyone of, the history in Tamil Nadu.
MGR.
Our film stars who became major political figures.
Jayalalitha.
Exactly. So, the question is, can Vijay replicate that kind of success?
Can he really pull this off?
And, will he try to do it the same way, or is he going to have his own style?
His own path, right? Because it's a different time, right?
Totally different world.
Totally different world than when MGR and Jayalalitha were coming up.
And Vijay's been, not exactly quiet about this. He's been involved in social causes even before this big announcement.
Like what kind of I know there's been some stuff with education.
Yeah, he's been supporting education through his fan clubs for a while.
Oh, interesting. So it's kind of using that existing structure.
Yeah, and he's been, speaking out on some pretty controversial social justice issues too, not shying away from that at all.
So he's been kind of laying the groundwork in a way.
It seems like it.
Yeah, it seems like it. So can you give me a specific example of something where he was involved in it seemed like it had like a political angle?
Well, there was this instance where he publicly supported this protest against a factory that was polluting a river.
Oh, wow. So environmentalism.
Yeah. And, his involvement really brought a lot of attention to the issue, put pressure on the government to actually do something. And if you think about it, that kind of environmental activism was a big part of MGR's campaigns as well.
Oh, interesting.
So you see that kind of parallel there.
So he's sort of aligning himself
in a way
with the everyday person.
Yes. Definitely portraying himself as someone who understands the struggles of ordinary people.
The people's champion, kind of.
Yeah. And that kind of message is really resonating.
It's working for him.
It seems to be, particularly with young people who are tired of the same old corrupt politics, They're looking for a change.
And let's not forget the massive fan base.
Oh, yeah.
That he's bringing to the table.
Huge.
I mean, this is a level of fandom that really extends across South India, even beyond.
Absolutely. I mean, they're really devoted to him.
So that's got to be a huge advantage in a political campaign.
Well, it definitely gives him a head start, but, translating that fandom into actual votes, that's a different challenge.
Right. It's one thing to, his movies.
Exactly. You need to convince people that he can actually run a government.
Okay, so how does he bridge that gap?
Well, that's where the party comes in.
The Tamilaga Vetri Kazhagam.
Exactly. So what can you tell us about them?
Well, the name itself, Tamil Nadu Victory Federation, it really speaks to unity progress,
Yeah, it's a powerful message.
Especially in a state with such a strong sense of identity like Tamil Nadu.
Definitely, but what are they actually promising to do?
What are the specifics of their platform?
Well, one of their big focuses is addressing corruption, which has been a huge problem in Tamil Nadu politics for years.
Okay, so cleaning up the system.
Yeah, making government more transparent, accountable to the people.
And they've also talked about reforming the education system.
Yes, that's another big one, improving the quality of education, particularly for students from disadvantaged backgrounds.
So they're really trying to appeal to a broad range of voters with these issues.
Definitely. They're not focusing on just one narrow segment of the population. They want to build a broad base of support.
Makes sense. So we've got a good idea of the issues they're focusing on, but what about the strategies?
Okay.
How are they actually reaching voters? How are they building a political movement?
Well, it's a combination of old and new tactics.
So they're not just relying on Vijay's star power.
They're definitely using that to their advantage.
I mean, it'd be silly not to.
Right, but they're also doing the groundwork, organizing rallies, public meetings, door-to-door campaigns.
So the traditional stuff.
Yeah, and they're using social media very effectively.
Oh yeah, that's a must-have these days.
Absolutely. They're using platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook to connect with younger voters, share their message, even organize online campaigns.
So they're combining the reach of traditional campaigning with the immediacy of social media.
Yeah, and it's a pretty savvy approach.
It really is. So they're not just relying on Vijay's fame, they're building a real organization.
Yes, and that's important because they're going up against some very established political forces in Tamil Nadu.
Right, they're not the only players in the game.
Not at all.
So who are they up against? What does the political landscape look like?
Well, the two main parties in Tamil Nadu are the DMK and the AIADMK.
And the DMK is currently in power.
Yes, led by MK Stalin, they have a strong hold on the state assembly.
So Vijay is going up against the ruling party.
That's right, a party with a lot of experience and resources.
Tough challenge.
Definitely. Definitely. And then there's the AIDMK, the party that was once led by Jayalalitha.
So another major force.
Yes, they still have a significant following, although they're going through some internal divisions at the moment.
Okay, so maybe a bit of weakness there?
Possibly, but they've bounced back before, so I wouldn't underestimate them.
So it sounds like Vijay is entering a pretty tough political arena.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's facing some seasoned opponents.
And on top of that, he's got to deal with the whole issue of his lack of political experience.
That's right. His opponents are definitely going to use that against him, try to portray him as a novice who's not ready for the job.
The classic outsider versus the establishment.
Exactly. And it's going to be interesting to see how he responds to that challenge.
All right, so we've laid out the battlefield charismatic newcomer versus seasoned veterans.
In a state with a unique history of film stars turned politicians.
Yeah, Tamil Nadu has a fascinating political landscape.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's take a step back and look at that history a bit more closely.
Okay.
I mean, Tamil Nadu has this unique tradition of electing film stars to office.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
We've already mentioned MGR and Jayalalitha, both ironic actors who became chief ministers and left a huge mark on the state.
Right. Their legacies are still felt today.
So how does Vijay fit into this narrative?
That's the question.
Is he just following their footsteps?
Well, is he trying to do something different?
And that's something we'll delve into more deeply in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned, folks, because things are about to get really interesting. Welcome back. You know, it's really interesting how Tamil Nadu has this whole thing with film stars and politics.
Yeah, it's a unique connection.
Like, it's almost expected that at some point a big actor will try to make that jump to political office.
Yeah, it's like a well-worn path.
And we've got MGR and Jayalalitha as these prime examples. I mean, they weren't just actors, they were chief ministers.
Yeah, and they left a huge impact on the state.
So where does Vijay fit into all of this?
Well, he's definitely drawing inspiration from his predecessors.
Like, he's following the playbook in some ways.
But he's also bringing his own style.
His own flavor to it.
Exactly.
So what are the things that are similar between Vijay's political journey and those of MGR and Jayalalitha?
Well, first of all, the obvious one, they were all incredibly popular actors before entering politics.
Right, huge fan bases.
Especially among working class and rural populations.
So they already had a built-in support base.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage.
And it's not just about the numbers, it's about that emotional connection that they had with the people.
Exactly. They were seen as more than just entertainers.
Like they represented something.
Yeah, they often played characters who fought for the underdog, stood up against injustice, championed the common person.
So those on-screen roles really fed into their political personas.
Absolutely. It's like they were already playing the role of a leader even before they entered politics.
So Vijay is kind of following that same script in a way.
He's definitely playing to that image.
The righteous hero fighting for what's right.
Exactly. And it aligns perfectly with his message of fighting corruption, empowering the youth.
So it's like their film careers were a kind of pre-campaigning.
Yeah, they were building a connection with the audience that could later be translated into political support.
But Vijay's not just copying the past, right?
No, he's also adapting his strategy to connect with a new generation of voters.
Like, what are the ways in which his approach is different from what MGR and Jayalalitha did?
Well, the biggest difference is his use of social media.
That's a big one.
Yeah, he's all over platforms like Twitter, Instagram, even TikTok.
Reaching out to those younger voters?
Absolutely. And it allows him to communicate directly with his audience without having to rely on traditional media.
So he's bypassing the gatekeepers in a way.
Exactly. And it's not just one-way communication. He's actually engaging with people responding to comments.
So it's a more personal connection.
Much more direct.
So it's not just about posting messages, it's about creating a dialogue.
Yeah, making people feel like they're part of the process.
So it's a very different approach than what we saw in the past.
Definitely more interactive, more accessible.
Okay, so we've got social media. What other modern techniques is Vijay bringing to the table?
Well, he's also using data analytics and targeted advertising.
So he's getting pretty sophisticated.
Yeah, they're using data to figure out which voters to target with what message.
So it's a more strategic approach.
Much more targeted.
But even with all this technology, they still need to connect with those rural voters.
Oh, absolutely. You can't win in Tamil Nadu without the rural vote.
So how's Vijay doing that?
Well, they're still doing the traditional stuff, rallies, public meetings, door-to-door campaigning in rural areas.
So they're not abandoning the old methods entirely.
No, they're integrating them with the new.
Finding that balance.
Exactly.
So it's a really interesting blend of tradition and innovation.
Yeah, and it seems to be working so far.
It's a smart strategy, but one of the big criticisms that Vijay faces is his lack of political experience.
Yeah, that's a big one.
How much of a hurdle do you think that is?
Well, it's definitely something that his opponents will try to exploit.
Paint him as a novice.
Exactly, someone who's not ready for the job.
So how can Vijay counter that attack?
Well, he can emphasize his experience in managing large-scale projects and organizations.
Like his film productions.
Yeah, filmmaking is a complex business.
Lots of moving parts.
You need leadership skills, organizational skills. You need to be able to handle budgets and deadlines.
So he can argue that those skills are transferable to politics.
Exactly. And he can point to concrete examples of his successes in the film industry.
So it's about reframing his experience.
Yes, showing that he's got a proven track record, even if it's not in politics.
And he can also surround himself with experienced advisors.
Yeah, building a strong team is crucial.
People who can fill in the gaps in his knowledge.
Exactly. And it shows that he's serious about governing. He's willing to learn.
So it's about showing humility.
Recognizing that he doesn't have all the answers.
Okay, but beyond the team and the experience, what else can he do to convince voters that he's the right guy for the job?
Well, he can focus on his vision for the future.
Laying out a clear plan?
Exactly, showing that he understands the challenges facing Tamil Nadu and that he has concrete solutions.
So it's about moving beyond his past experience and focusing on his future plans.
Yes, inspiring people with a vision for a better tomorrow.
And that could really resonate with voters who are tired of the same old politics.
Especially young voters who are looking for a fresh start.
So Vijay's outsider status could actually be an advantage.
It allows him to position himself as a true agent of change.
Someone who's not tied to the old ways of doing things.
Exactly, and that's a powerful message.
But let's be real here. He's going up against some tough competition.
Oh yeah, those established parties have a lot of power.
So what are the specific challenges that Vijay faces from his rivals?
Well, one of the biggest is their organizational strength.
They've got those deep roots in Tamil Nadu politics.
Yeah, they have vast networks of supporters, volunteers, and donors.
So it's not just about winning over individual voters. It's about building a political machine that can compete.
Exactly, and that takes time, effort, and resources.
So Vijay has to build his own grassroots movement.
While also funding off attacks from his opponents.
So it's a multi-front war.
It's a tough battle.
But he does have some advantages.
Oh, definitely.
We've talked about his star power, his ability to connect with people.
And his clean image.
Yeah, he's not been involved in any scandals or controversies.
That's a big plus in a political environment that's often seen as corrupt.
So he represents a break from the past.
A fresh start.
And he's got that appeal to young voters.
Yeah, he's really energized that demographic.
So it's a classic David versus Goliath situation.
Outsider versus the establishment.
And it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Absolutely. Anything is possible in politics.
We've seen underdog stories before.
And this could be another one.
Okay, so we've talked about the history, the strategies, the challenges, the advantages.
But there's one more piece to this puzzle.
His political platform.
What does he actually stand for?
What are his plans for Tamil Nadu?
And that's something we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, folks, because the plot thickens. All right, so we've talked about Vijay's journey into politics, his campaign, all that, but what does he actually stand for?
Yeah, what's he going to do if he actually becomes chief minister?
What are the big ideas?
Well, his party, the Tamalaga Vitri Kozagam, has a whole platform, you know?
Okay, so let's get into it. What are some of the key things they're focusing on?
One of the big ones is corruption.
Okay, yeah, that's a big issue in Tamil Nadu politics.
It's been going on for years.
So what are they going to do about it?
Well, Vijay's been really hammering home this message of cleaning up the system.
You know, making things more transparent.
Exactly, holding corrupt officials accountable.
I mean, that's got to resonate with a lot of people.
It does. A lot of people are fed up with the way things have been going.
They want change.
They want to believe that their government is working for them, not just for the politicians.
So Vijay's trying to tap into that.
Yeah, he's offering a fresh start.
So it's not just talk. They've actually put forward some specific proposals.
Right. They've talked about strengthening anti-corruption agencies, making the penalties for corruption much tougher, and bringing in more transparency in government contracts and all that.
So they're trying to show that they're serious about this.
It's not just empty promises.
Okay, so corruption's a big one. What else is on their agenda?
Education reform is another major focus.
Okay, yeah, education is huge in Tamil Nadu.
It always has been.
So what are they proposing?
Well, they're talking about increasing investment in public schools, improving teacher training, introducing more vocational programs, making college more affordable for students from low-income families, a whole range of things.
So they're looking at the entire system
from top to bottom,
trying to improve it for everyone.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got corruption, education, what else?
Economic development is another big one.
Yeah, Tamil Nadu's got a strong economy, but there's always room for improvement.
Especially when it comes to creating jobs for young people.
That's a huge issue.
It is, and Vijay's party is really focused on that.
So what's their plan?
Well, they're talking about attracting more investment, promoting entrepreneurship, trying to create more opportunities in sectors like manufacturing, technology, tourism.
So they're trying to build a more dynamic economy.
One that can benefit everyone.
Not just the big corporations.
They're also talking about supporting small businesses.
Okay, so a balanced approach.
Yeah, a mix of big and small.
Makes sense. All right, so we've got Corruption, education, economic development. Those are some pretty big issues.
Those are the big three.
But what about some of the more specific challenges facing Tamil Nadu?
Like what?
Well, agriculture, for one.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Tamil Nadu is a big agricultural state.
Millions of people depend on it.
But farmers are facing a lot of problems these days.
Drought, rising costs, unpredictable markets.
So what's Vijay's party going to do about that?
Well, they're talking about improving irrigation, providing subsidies for things like fertilizer and seeds, helping farmers get better prices for their crops, things like that.
So they're trying to make life a little easier for farmers.
Yeah, giving them the support they need.
And they've also talked about healthcare, right?
Yes. Improving access to quality healthcare, especially in rural areas.
That's a big one.
They're proposing more hospitals, more clinics, more doctors and nurses, expanding health insurance coverage.
So trying to make sure that everyone has access to decent healthcare.
Regardless of where they live or how much money they have.
Okay, so they're really trying to cover all the bases.
It's a very ambitious agenda.
It is a lot to promise.
And it remains to be seen how much of it they can actually deliver.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
It's one thing to have a plan, it's another to actually make it happen.
There's always going to be obstacles.
Political reality.
Limited resources.
Competing interests.
So it's going to be a tough road ahead.
No doubt about it.
But it's a fascinating story.
It really is.
This whole journey of Thalapathy Vijay from the silver screen to the political arena.
It's a story that's still being written.
And we're going to keep following it every step of the way.
Analyzing the twists and turns, the triumphs, and the setbacks.
So stay tuned, folks, because this is just the beginning.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better you can understand the world around you.
That's it for this deep dive. See you next time.